Hello everyone, today we will discuss chapter number 1 or unit number 1, environment and climate change. First of all, we will talk about what is environment, then we'll talk about the different components of environment, and later on we will talk about the need of environmental studies. So first of all, let us talk about environment. The definition of environment goes like this. Environment is the sum total of all surrounding conditions and influences that include living components like plants and animals and non-living components like air, water, soil and sunlight. Both affect the survival, growth and development of organisms. So whatever is around you, which is living as well as non-living, it's a combination of both. That is your environment, and both living and non-living, these things, they affect or interact with each other, and that decide our survival, that decide whether we will grow or not. All the organisms, living organisms and the non-living things that are available around you, both make environment. So environment means biotic, combination of biotic and abiotic. Biotic means all living things like plants, vegetables, animals, then birds, then you have all bacteria, microorganisms, everything that is living, that is alive, that is biotic. And abiotic means water, soil, air, mountain. This is everything abiotic, but both living, that is biotic, and non-living, that is abiotic, both of them interact with each other so that the living organisms can grow, can survive, can reproduce. If one factor, maybe biotic or abiotic, one factor is affected, every the balance gets affected, and that's why there has to be balance between both biotic and abiotic. But before we go further, we should understand what is the difference between environment, climate and weather. Sometimes we use them, we exchange them, but we are not supposed to misunderstand what is meant by environment. Environment is a bigger phenomenon, wherein climate means the usual pattern of weather in a place over a long period of time. It describes things like how hot or cold it normally is, how much rain falls, and what the seasons are like in that area. So climate म्हणजे हवामान. Climate means it's a continuous condition of weather at one particular place. Actually, as per the norms, as per the tradition, the period of 30 years is taken into consideration to decide the climate of one particular place. For example, in Maharashtra, what type of climate is there? What type of seasons are there? For 30 years, regularly, if somebody observes that this is a regular pattern of this particular area or region, it may be hot, it may be cold, it may be temperate. According to the observation of 30 years, it is decided what kind of climate is there of that particular region. For example, if you go to Mahabaleshwar, it has the climate which is cooler as compared to rest of the Maharashtra. So similarly, if you go to Vidarbha, the climate is little hotter, clear. Up to 30 years, somebody observes it, and based on the regular pattern of the weather, it is decided whether the climate of one particular area is hot, frigid, dry, rainy, or something like that. So climate is different. Where is environment? Just now we discussed about. Later on, weather. So weather, Rutu, weather, Havaman. Weather is day-to-day condition of the atmosphere at a place. It tells us whether it is hot or cold, sunny, cloudy, rainy, or windy at a particular time. For example, when you are in Mumbai, sometimes it is cloudy. It's the weather that is cloudy. It's not the climate. Climate is for 30 years the recurrence of the same pattern, whereas weather can change day to day. Within day also the weather can change. In the morning it is all sunny, clear, but in the evening it might be cloudy. So that is the difference between or among weather, climate and environment. Just to understand it, because there might be an MCQ based on this: what is the difference between environment and weather, or what is this difference between climate and weather. So you should be knowing that. To understand the environment, we must look at it as a vast interconnected system. It is generally categorized into natural and human made components, each of which is further divided into specific layers or factors. See, environment has biotic and abiotic things. Similarly, naturally made and human made, these two categories are also available in environment, and they interact with each other. Means what? The human made factors affect the natural factors, or maybe the natural factors affect human made factors, and both the things, human made as well as natural, both of them interact, and they frame and they decide whether the uh, organisms, whether the animals, whether the birds, whether the humans, they should flourish, grow or not in that particular area. That is decided by the environment, and that's why environment is very necessary to understand. Now, what are the different types of environment? Number one, natural environment. Now, what is this natural environment? This includes everything that exists in nature without human involvement. We have not contributed anything, not even a single percentage in creation. These are natural environment. For example, land, soil, that is created naturally. We have not created it. And land is also known as lithosphere. Understand this. Lithosphere. There might be some MCQ about lithosphere. What is meant by lithosphere? There might be four alternatives, and you should know that lithosphere means land, soil. What is included in land? For example, mountains, plains, soil, rocks. For example, you have Himalaya, you have Sahyadri, you have very fertile land that is available in Maharashtra and outside Maharashtra. That is lithosphere. So one natural environment, number one example is land, that is lithosphere. Number two, water. Now water is also known as hydrosphere. Hydrosphere, remember this term, hydrosphere. It might be technical jargon, but you should be aware about lithosphere. You should be aware about hydrosphere. Hydrosphere means water. For example, rivers, lakes, oceans, groundwater. This is natural environment. The next one is air. Air is also called atmosphere. Now see, environment, atmosphere, climate and weather, all four things are different. Remember this. Now atmosphere means air. Air is also natural environment. We are talking about different types of environment. Number one, we are discussing natural environment, so you should pay attention to this. Now what comes under the air or the atmosphere? The layer of air around the earth that we breathe. It has oxygen, it has carbon dioxide, it has nitrogen, it has so many other gases. They combinedly make air, that is atmosphere. This is also natural environment. The next one is living things. Living things means all natural, not humans. Humans are also living things, but we are talking about natural environment. So living things means biosphere. Biosphere means everything natural. And what comes under living things of biosphere? That is plants, पेड़ पौधे, animals, the animals that we have not created, then the microorganisms, the microbes, for example, forests, birds, insects and all. So this is what living things means, biosphere, that comes under natural environment. Now the second type of environment is human made environment, artificial. We prepared it, we made it by our intellect and by our efforts. For example, buildings, houses, schools, hospitals, roads, bridges, dams, factories, cities, towns and transport system, everything we have made it, we have prepared it artificially. Of course we have used natural resources, but now whatever is human made, that is human made environment, which is a part of environment. Social and cultural environment, besides human in human made environment, besides the buildings and houses, social and cultural environment also we made it. We didn't get it naturally. For example, schools, churches, temples, government systems and everything we have made it. Festivals, rituals, all the traditions, the clothes, everything that we use socially and personally, that is called social and cultural environment. Every individual has different culture, every individual has different rituals and to follow, religion to follow, region to follow, the terms, the conditions, the festivals, rituals to follow. That comes under social and cultural environment. Then we also changed some landscapes. We made them artificially. For example, we have prepared farms. We cut the trees from one particular piece of land and we used it for land, so that we can sow and we can get the grains. So large scale wheat farms or maybe grain farms, then urban parks we prepared the different huge dams and all. This is all human made, that comes under the heading human made environment. Then comes how they interact, how human made and natural environment interact. One example is given over here which is very good and that I like it personally. For example, when humans, that is biotic or human component, build a dam, that is human made component, dam is a human made component, they change the flow of a river. Now flow of a river means water, water means hydrosphere. They change the flow of the river and change the soil composition, that is soil composition, soil means lithosphere, which in turn affect the fish and plant living there, that is biosphere. So one interference of humans, they change hydrosphere, lithosphere and biosphere. Similarly, if the biosphere changes or the lithosphere changes or the hydrosphere changes, it affects the human life also. It is give and take. It's a circular thing. And this is how they interact. We human interfere somewhere, it affects the lithosphere, it affects the hydrosphere, it affects the biosphere. Means it affects river, that is water bodies, it affects our soil, that is land, it affects our plants and fish and the animals. And if these things are affected negatively, the negative consequences of it every human has to tolerate. And that's why environmental studies is very important to do. Again, the same thing is repeated, like types of environment, that is natural or geographical environment. Under the heading natural or geographical environment, you have biotic living environment. Biotic living environment includes all flora and fauna, that is living, right? Even fungi and microorganisms. Then abiotic, that is physical environment, it also comes under natural environment, that is sunlight, air, water, soil, everything that provides us the energy and the raw material necessary for the human or the animal existence. Then human made environment, that is human built environment, like infrastructure, industry, then different modified landscapes like parks and artificial lakes and our agriculture farmland. This I think we discussed. Then social and cultural environment, this comes under our different relationship, traditions, rituals, the culture, everything comes under the heading social and cultural environment, like family, then you have peer group, then you have communities and all, then you have different religious practices, languages, educational system, all the rituals to follow. Now very important question, very important topic, that is need of environmental studies. This is what you all need to pay attention to. This is very important. There is a strong need for environmental studies because human life is deeply connected with nature. Without nature, we cannot. Unless and until we get air to breathe, we will not survive. Unless and until we get something to eat that we get from our animals as well as nature, we will not survive, we will not flourish. And that's why human life is deeply connected with nature. As population, industries, and technology grow, pressure on the environment also increases. Our population increases. Two people, they eat one single bhakri, or if the two people become 20, one bhakri will not be sufficient. So all these environmental resources, natural resources, they are having the pressure, the stress. And that is what is happening in India also, because we are overpopulated country. We have crossed 140 crores. And in order to have the grain to feed that much of population, there is a huge stress on the natural or the environmental resources. Environmental studies help us understand those problems, and because of the environmental studies we understand what exactly the problem is. If we do not understand the problem, we will not be able to find out the solution for it, and if there is no solution to the problem, obviously everybody will die. Environmental studies help us understand these problems and find ways to protect our planet for the present and future. Not only for present generation, for future generation also we have to see, I am there. This is my generation. The next generation will be my son or the daughter. And then their next generation will be their son and the daughter. And we want all these natural resources available for their generation also. It's not that today I'm here, so let me consume the oxygen, let me consume the food that is available, let me use all the natural resources and just enjoy it, and let all the natural resources die and get over. What will happen to the next generation? They will starve and they will die. They will not grow. They will not progress. And that's why environmental studies help us to understand that besides our needs satisfied, the needs of the next coming generation should also be satisfied. And that's why it is everybody's task or moral responsibility to study environmental science, so that we understand the problem, so that we understand how natural resources are being looted and used, and now they are getting over if all the natural resources like air, water, soil, everything gets over, there will not be any human race available on the planet. And that's why we have to study environmental science. In a world facing unprecedented ecological shift, the need for this field has moved from academic interest to global survival. Now, this is not just for academic sake, this is not just for getting some marks in examination, it is the question of our survival. Every human being is on the verge of extinction, like tigers, like rhinos. The rhinos, the tigers, and even the Jurassic Park era, everything got over because the natural environment, the natural climate they needed, that was consumed by human greed, and now they have nothing left, right? So this is what is happening. And if we understand the problem, if we understand why we are responsible as humans for this problem, we will be able to find out the solution. Otherwise everyone will die. There will not be any biotic resource available on the planet. Now, there is number one reason why we should or we need to study environment. To understand the relationship between humans and nature. Humans and nature, they are totally dependent. Whatever we consume, whatever nutrients we want, we get it from nature. If nature or the resources are affected, obviously our body is going to be affected. For example, our water is not pure, our air is not pure, it is polluted. If our food is also contaminated, if the food has the microplastics, obviously all these natural resources are affected or polluted, and the same natural resources we consume, by default we are not going to grow properly, or we will be facing the consequences, the bad health, the ill health. And that's why majority of the people, they are suffering. Though the medical science is advanced, there is advanced machinery, advanced machines, advanced what you can say, the different vaccinations are available, still the people are not healthy. The reason is this: all the natural resources are polluted only because of human interference. And that's why we should understand that humans and nature, they cannot be separated. One action of human which is wrong is going to affect the nature, and if nature is affected, humans are bound to be affected. This is what we learn from environmental studies, and that's why we should learn environmental studies. For example, we need forest for oxygen, rainfall. Without rain, there won't be any water. Without oxygen, we will not survive more than 2 minutes. We should understand this. All the raw material, now whatever material are available, whatever home, your car, your motorbike, everything that we consume, everything is from nature, directly or indirectly. And that's why we should understand that our actions while we are interacting with nature should be proper. It should not affect the nature. If it affects the nature, by default it is going to affect us. In the Amazon has disturbed larger scale deforestation in the Amazon has disturbed rainfall patterns and increased global warming, showing how harmful nature affect the whole world. The floods, the extra rain that is happening, or complete drought. Why it is happening? Because of the global warming. Because we are consuming, we are releasing carbon dioxide, we are releasing all the greenhouse gases, and because of that the temperature of this globe, this world is increasing. And if it continues, obviously everything will come to an end one day. And that's why we should understand the dangerous consequences of our actions. And that's why we should understand, or we should study environmental science. Because unless and until we understand what harm or effect we are causing to the nature, we will not be in the position to apply solutions. The second reason why we should study, or why there is a need to study environment, that is to create awareness about environment problems. There are so many people, they are educated, but still they are not aware about the environment problem, the harm that we have done, or we have been causing, or we are causing day to day. The reason we should study environment, it is because we should understand, be aware about the environmental problems. For example, air pollution, water pollution, deforestation, climate change, loss of biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity means, the tigers, they once ruled our forest. Now there are no forests, complete deforestation is there. So all the flora and the fauna, all the animals, all the insects, all the microorganisms, everything is affected because there are no trees available, and that's why it is going to affect our rain pattern. And if there is no rain, or if there is excess rain, in both the conditions we are at loss. And we have been watching, there are so many cyclones that are taking place. There are so many cities, they are getting submerged under the water in rainy season, or maybe out of the season there is a rain. Reason is this: global warming. We have affected the nature, and we are bound to face the bad consequences. And I fear what would happen in the next generation. And that's why we should study, or there is a dire need to study environmental science. For example, in Delhi, you can see the AQI, the air quality index. It is highly dangerous. In every metro city, it is highly dangerous in India. In abroad also, all the majority city, they are industrialized and they are polluted, and only because of the pollution more than 20 lakh people die every year, and nobody is paying attention to it. And that's the dangerous situation. That's really a dangerous situation. The crop is getting disturbed. If there is no crop, there are no grains, what will you eat? The day will come where you will keep the vada pavs and the food that you prepared in the morning in your safe, and you will lock it. The way we lock our money, the way we lock our jewelry, similarly we will lock our food also, because that is what is the ultimate truth. Even if you are a Ram Patil, the poor one, or maybe Mr. Ambani, everybody needs food. Nobody is going to consume that 500 rupees note or maybe a diamond. No, you need food for that. And if there is no crop, no grain, no production, what will happen? And if there is no rain or excess rain, there wouldn't be any crop left, and there wouldn't be any grain, there wouldn't be any harvesting. Just think about it. Imagine how costly it would be. And in corona, we have understood that even we were not allowed to go out, and there was a question of daily provision like bread and butter, and we couldn't find it. The people were ready to be beaten by the police, but they used to go outside and just buy something, the daily needs, maybe bread, butter, or maybe vegetable and all fruits. That is the situation, and the corona has made us aware about it. And corona is also a byproduct of environmental hazards that we caused it, directly or indirectly. The third reason why there is a need of environmental studies: to promote conservation of natural resources. We should protect our natural resources, and if we do not protect them, they will be over, and once they will be over, we will be left with nothing. But there will be only one, that is end. Everybody will die, everybody. For example, water conservation through rainwater harvesting. Now when there is rain, it is abundance of rain, and it flows in the gutter, it goes to the river, and then again it goes to the maybe finally the ocean, and which is completely salty. Now we cannot consume that water. So once it falls on our roof, once it falls on our soil, we have to collect it. And there are so many rainwater harvesting techniques available, advanced technology is there, and we should make sure that whatever water we consume throughout the year, or maybe for 30 years or 40 years or 70 years, we should collect that much of pure water when it rains, and we should conserve that water. Because we all know that hardly 1 to 2% of water which is pure and potable available on the planet, and if we waste it, if we do not conserve it, do not protect it, there wouldn't be any water left. And without water, hardly one day you will survive. The next day your kidneys will say tata bye bye, and you will go out of this world. The then in Chennai also it was the crisis, and then they started in 2019 when they faced that water crisis. They studied the environmental studies, and they started rainwater harvesting and made it compulsory for everyone, so that the ground level water increases and the people can dig up the well and tube well, and they get the potable water out of it. And that is why everybody, without any government interference or force, it is our moral responsibility not to waste the potable water, as well as whatever rainwater we get, we have to make sure that it goes down straight away to our soil, so that the ground level of water increases and we get it whenever we need it. The fourth reason why there is a need of environmental studies: to protect biodiversity. Now, what is biodiversity? The different flora and fauna available in one particular region. For example, whatever trees, whatever insects, whatever birds and animals that are found in Mahabaleshwar, they may not be found in Vidarbha. Or whatever flora and fauna that is available in Maharashtra, it may not be found in Bihar. That is biodiversity. So based on the natural resources and the climate and the environment, the all living things, they are affected, or there is influence of that particular environment on that particular living organism, and that is biodiversity. So plants and animals are important for maintaining ecological balance. Both are necessary for ecological balance. For example, trees get the fertilizer from animals, animals get food from trees. So it is reciprocal relationship. Both of them are, if one thing is affected, everything is affected. For example, if all the herbivores, their number increases and there are no carnivores to hunt them, obviously there won't be any vegetable available and no vegetation at all, because herbivores will consume everything and again they will also starve to death. And that's why there has to be carnivores. For example, if all the deers and the zebras are available in the forest and there are no lions and there are no leopards to hunt them, obviously the number of zebras and wildebeest, it will increase. So if all these herbivores increase, they need food and they will consume every bit of grass that is available in that forest and there wouldn't be anything left. So what will happen after that? Every animal will die, and that's why you need both. In India also, of course, we have started with Project Tiger, and now the number of tiger is more than 3,000 in India. Then the fifth reason why we should study environmental science, to deal with climate change. Climate change. In rainy season there has to rain. In winter season there has to be cool breeze. In summer season it has to be hot. So this is expected and normal in a temperate zone like India. But this is not happening nowadays. In winter season also you may experience rain. In rainy season you may experience a complete dry weather. It may happen that in rainy season you may get something cool. This is a climate change, and this is happening because of the global warming, and for global warming humans are the major responsible factor. And that's why environmental studies help us to understand what is meant by climate change and why it is happening and what are the solutions for it, or which are our actions that are responsible for the climate change. Once we understand this, we will not do that. For example, when I know that because of the excess use of mobile phone, I have developed the neck pain, that is the spondylosis. When I come to know that only because of mobile and laptop I have developed that problem of neck pain, later on I will stop using it because I have understood it. Similarly, whatever is affecting our environment, whatever is making climate change, once I know, after the study, environmental study, I will stop doing that, or I will have some alternatives. For example, right now I am also using mobile phone as well as my laptop, but the mobile phone is placed somewhere at my head position. This is the solution that I have applied. Had it been like this, obviously my neck would have pained. Similarly, if you study climate change properly in environmental studies, you will understand the reasons why there is a climate change, the consequences of climate change, the consequences of global warming. You will try to come up with the solutions, and you understand the solutions in environmental study itself, and that's why there is a need to study environmental science. Forget about the marks and all. It's a question of our survival. The sixth reason is to support sustainable development. What is sustainable development? We need food, we need to grow, we need to flourish, we need to progress. And for that, we need natural resources. But once the natural resources are used, they are over. So we should develop ourselves, but the development has to be sustainable. Sustainable means what? It should not come on the cost of loss of environment. We should progress, but the environment should not be at loss. The next generation should also get that natural resource. It may be air, it may be soil, it may be water. Whatever natural resource we are using, make sure that we are using it for sustainable development. Sustainable means it sustains, it survives, and it goes last up to the next generation also, and that is sustainable development. So sustainable development means meeting present needs without harming future generation. If I consume everything today and the next generation is without that particular resource, what will happen? It's a complete imbalance. The next generation will die. So I should come up with such a plan, such a solution that I should also grow, and the coming generations should also grow by using that natural resources. That is sustainable development. For example, all your products around you should be eco-friendly. They should not harm or the affect environment. For example, plastic, we are using it for our benefit and it is very handy and useful product, but it is affecting environment. So this is not sustainable development. We are using automobile, we are using cars and all two wheelers to go from one place to another place, and hundreds and thousands of kilometers we can simply go by air within 2 or 3 hours. But again, it is affecting our environment. So that is not sustainable development. It is affecting us in a way. That's why you should come up with something, and that's why the people came up with electric vehicles now. Electric vehicle accepted, but the electricity should not be generated by thermal power plants. If you are using thermal power plants, obviously it is not it is not ecologically friendly. No, the environment is getting affected. So if it is a tidal energy, if it is a solar energy that we are producing it and we are using it in the cars, electric cars, then that is environment friendly. This is sustainable development. So we should come up with, and why engineers should learn environmental studies only for this reason, because they come up with the different machines, they come up with the different tools, instruments, they develop it, they invent it, and that's why they should develop such instruments, such machines, such automobiles that are environment friendly. That's why engineering students should study environmental science. The seventh reason why there is a need of environmental studies to improve public health. Nature is affected, public health is affected. Air is polluted, obviously we are bound to face the different diseases. The water is polluted, our kidneys will be at loss. Everything is affected in nature is going to affect us. And that's why if the environment is pure, our body would be healthy. And that's why to improve public health, the polluted environment directly affects human health. Environmental studies help identify environmental health and risk and solutions. Contaminated water, the mercury, the lead that is available in groundwater, which is going to affect our kidneys and the main organs. Once we understand this, only because of human industrial waste, or more because of the automobile that we drive, the soil is full of lead, full of mercury. And once we understand this, we will stop using that, or we should come up with such practices which will not release the lead and the mercury and these harmful chemicals in the soil, and in a way it will not reach to our body through our groundwater. That's why environmental science has to be studied. There is a dire need to study it. So these are the different needs of environmental studies, why we should study. Besides this, we can also address the global environmental issues. See, environment is not related to one particular country or the state. It is a global phenomenon. Because the air that is there in India, which is bound to reach Bangladesh or Pakistan or all the countries that are there in the vicinity. So if the air from India is polluted, it is bound to reach to the next country, and that's why environmental problem is the global issue. And that's why globally, if we understand the issue globally, we can come together and solve it. And that's why we must address the global environmental issues also, and by studying environmental science we can go for it. For example, ozone layer depletion, that is causing global warming everywhere. The problem is there, ozone layer that protects us from the ultraviolet rays of sun. If there is no ozone layer, everything will be burned to ashes. That's why we should understand the ozone layer depletion problem that results in global warming, and global warming results in complete destruction. Yes, so we discussed about what is meant by environment, we discussed about what are the different types of environment, and then we discussed the need why we should study environment. And based on this, there are some questions. Listen to me. The MCQs based on environment and types of environment. Number one, what is meant by environment? The answer is surroundings where living beings exist. Next question, which of the following is a natural component of the environment? Of course, you will be given four different alternatives, out of which there would be one alternative that would be correct, and you have to select. So the question is, which of the following is natural component of environment? The natural component means which is natural, living or maybe non-living, that is river, out of the four alternatives given. The next question is, which sphere includes air around the earth? You know the technical term, that is biosphere. Plants and animals together form which component? Answer, biosphere. Next question, which one is a human made environment? Out of the four alternatives, dam. Soil is a part of which sphere? Answer, lithosphere. Next question, which gas is most abundant in atmosphere? Answer, nitrogen. Which of the following is a social environment example? Answer, family. Next question, water bodies like rivers and oceans belong to? They belong to hydrosphere. Next question, environment mainly supports? Answer, humans, animals and plants. All of them are supported by environment. Next question, which one is not a natural environment? There will be four alternatives, out of which there is one thing that is not natural that we have to identify. Whenever there is not in a given question, be alert. Be alert. Which one is not a natural environment? Understand this. Answer is city. Not natural means human made. So you should understand it. So out of the four, one thing that is city, which is artificial or human made, which is not natural environment. Next question, living organisms depend mostly on, living organism depend on, answer is natural resources. Of course, we all depend on natural resources. Next question is, which component provides oxygen for breathing? Atmosphere. Atmosphere means air, which we have already studied it. Animals and plants interacting together form, both of them interact, they form ecosystem, which is dependent on each other. Next question, which one is renewable resource which can be renewed again and again? Answer is solar energy. The next one is the integration of living and non-living components is called, integration of living and non-living integration is called ecosystem. Understand this. The next question, which component of environment includes customs and traditions? The component that includes customs and tradition, that is social. The next one is, which sphere supports plant growth? The answer is lithosphere, means soil. Human made environment is created by, of course, humans. Which of the following best describes biosphere? Answer is zone of life on earth. Bio means life. The next question is, deforestation mainly affects which component? Cutting trees. It affects atmosphere, biosphere, social environment, everything, all of the above. Which of the following connects all environmental components? Which is the factor that connects all the environmental components? Answer is energy flow from one component to another component. The next one is, which is an example of biotic component? Biotic means living. Answer is plants. Air, water, soil, these are abiotic, non-living. Which one is abiotic component? Abiotic means non-living. For example, temperature, because tree, bird, human, these are living. That is non-living is temperature. Next question, overuse of resources leads to depletion. Depletion means khatam ho jana. Which environment includes schools and governments? Answer is social environment. Different types of environment we have discussed. Rivers are important because they support life and agriculture. Water. Which factor mainly controls climate? You should understand the difference between climate, weather, atmosphere and environment. I have already cleared it. Latitude. Which factor mainly controls climate? The latitude. Latitude means place, the region, exact address. Next one is, which component provides minerals? Minerals. The component that provides minerals is lithosphere. Which activity disturbs environmental balance most? Deforestation. Deforestation means cutting trees. Which of these is an example of sustainable use? Sustainable means continuous without affecting environment. Using solar energy, right? Cutting all trees, of course, it is not sustainable. Excess mining, not sustainable. Burning fossil fuels, not sustainable. The next one is pollution directly affects only humans, only animals, only planets? No, it affects everyone. Humans, animals, planets, everything. Which environment affects human behavior and lifestyle? The environment that affects human behavior and lifestyle is social environment. Balance is nature. Balance in nature is maintained by ecosystems. Which one links atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere? The one factor that links atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere is environment. The lithosphere mainly consists of soil and rocks. Which component is most affected by climate change? The component that is mainly affected by climate change is nature or natural. Which environment component regulates earth temperature? The component that regulates earth temperature is atmosphere, air. Next question. Excessive use of fertilizers affects mainly. The excessive use of fertilizer affects mainly soil and water. Fertilizers means जो खेती में हम लोग डालते हैं, खाद या फिर जो भी हम लोग पेस्टिसाइड्स एंड प्रिजर्वेटिव्स इस्तेमाल करते हैं वो. Which concept focuses on harmony between development and environment? The concept that focuses harmony between development and environment is sustainable development. Next question. Which of the following best explains environmental interdependence? The environmental interdependence is explained by one component that depends on another, dependent on one another. The removal of forest leads to increased. If we remove all the forest, it will leads to increased soil erosion. जो जमीन है वो निकल जाती है. Next question. Which sphere is essential for water cycle? The sphere that is essential for water cycle is atmosphere and hydrosphere. Human activities disturbing biosphere include the activities that disturb the biosphere that include industrial pollution. Next question. Which of the following is not an environmental component? Which is not an environmental component? That is political party. The options are natural, human-made, social. Political party. Political party is the one which is not an environmental component. Rest of them are. Environmental degradation mainly occurs due to human negligence. Next question. Which component supports food chain? The component that supports food chain is biosphere. Next, rapid urbanization mainly affects city life. Rapid urbanization mainly affects both natural and social environment. Next question. Which environmental component is directly responsible for biodiversity? The environmental component that is directly responsible for biodiversity is biosphere. Next question. Conservation of environment ensures healthy future generations. Sustainable development. Now there are some MCQs based on need of environmental studies. Number 1. The term environment is derived from the French word environnement, which means to encircle or surround, or surroundings. Which of the following is the most important reason for studying environmental studies as a compulsory subject? Why you should study environment as compulsory subject? The answer is to understand the interrelationship between living organisms and their environment for sustainable development. This is very important. It may be asked. Next question. Environmental studies is a multidisciplinary subject because it includes. Why you can call environmental study as multidisciplinary subject? Because it includes aspects of science, engineering, social science, law, and management. All these subjects are involved in it, and that's why it is multidisciplinary subject. The next question. The primary goal of sustainable development is to. What is the primary goal of sustainable development? That is answer. Meet the needs of present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. हमारे भी needs fulfill होनी चाहिए और coming generation के भी. The next question is, which of the following is an example of non-renewable resource which cannot be renewed? The answer is natural gas. Once consumed, it is over. The next question, the concept of carrying capacity refers to, this is very important, the concept of carrying capacity refers to the maximum population size an environment can sustain indefinitely. In one area, how many people can stay for their life to satisfy their needs? That is called carrying capacity. If the carrying capacity of one particular area is hardly 100 people, and if there are 200 people living over there, obviously there would be problem. Take the example of Mumbai. All the roads are full of traffic jam. Next question. This is very famous. The Chipko movement in India was primarily related to, Chipko movement, very famous. The question is always asked in this competitive exams also. The Chipko movement in India was primarily related to protection of forest, that is hugging the tree. Next question. Which of the following is a major cause of environmental degradation in developing countries like India? Like India, this is the developing country, and what is the major cause of environmental degradation? Answer is poverty and overpopulation. गरीब है हम लोग और बहुत ज़्यादा है संख्या में. The next question is, the main objective of environmental impact assessment, EIA. You may be asked this question, what is the full form of EIA? The answer is environmental impact assessment. And the main objective of this environmental impact assessment, that is EIA, is to predict and evaluate the environmental impacts of a project before implementation. Whatever project you want to launch, whatever new product you want to launch in market, or you want to produce, to predict and evaluate environmental impacts. What will happen in the process? For example, you want to manufacture plastic bags. How it will affect the environment, that is called environmental impact assessment. The next question is, which of the following is not a component of the natural environment? Which is not natural environment, like air, water, soil, buildings? Answer is building. Next question, the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, that's Earth Summit, which is very important. The United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, that is Earth Summit, was held in 1992. When was the Earth Summit held? In 1992. And where it was held? It was held as Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro. The next question, the Brundtland Commission report. It was in 1987. The Brundtland Commission report is famously known for introducing the concept of, what is it famous for? What exactly it introduced? It introduced sustainable development. Mark these things, very important. The next question is, which of the following is a key reason for the loss of biodiversity? The key reason of loss of biodiversity is habitat destruction due to urbanization and industrialization. We simply cut the jungles and forests and we started making our own concrete jungles. That is what? Habitat destruction. You destroyed the natural house of the flora and fauna, and now you made it your own 10 flory, or maybe 20 flory, or maybe 50 flory. And that is the problem, habitat destruction due to urbanization and industrialization. The next question is, the main purpose of celebrating World Environment Day on 5th June. You may be asked this question, on which date the World Environment Day is celebrated? It is 5th June. And what is the main purpose of it? The main purpose is raise global awareness and action for environmental protection. How the global warming is affecting the whole world and what can be done for that. That is the purpose. Next question. The 3 R's in waste management stand for. This is going to be discussed later on by me also. The 3 R's are reduce, reuse, and recycle. The next question is, environmental ethics deals with moral relationship of human beings with the environment. Next question, a major source of water pollution is, why water is major and which factor is affecting or polluting the water? That is domestic sewage and industrial effluents. Whatever we release from our industry and from our houses, all our sanitation that goes in the river, and that pollutes our water, and that is main reason. Industrial effluents, the release from the industry, as well as our domestic waste. The greenhouse effect is primarily caused by the increase of which gases in the atmosphere? Why are the greenhouse gases that is responsible for the ozone layer depletion? That is greenhouse gases like CO2 and methane, chlorofluorocarbon and methane and carbon dioxide. These are the 3 gases that are responsible for the greenhouse, that is ozone layer depletion, and that's why the temperature of the globe is increasing. Which of the following is an example of in situ conservation of biodiversity? In situ, mark my words, it is related to national park. National park is an example of in situ conservation of biodiversity. National park means all the flora and fauna are protected. There, the humans, they are not allowed to enter that area, and whenever there is no interference of humans in any area, it is bound to flourish naturally. The role of an engineer in environmental protection is your role. Design projects that minimize environmental damages. Whatever tool, whatever machines, whatever projects you undertake, design them in such a manner that the environment is not affected, not damaged. Now, there are some more very questions, competitive exam level exam questions based on this topic, environment and the need of environment. I'll read them with the answers. The primary goal of environmental studies is to develop sustainable solutions for human environment conflict. The next one is, which of the following is not a key reason for the increasing importance of environmental studies? Which is not the key reason? Stable and predictable global climate pattern. Of course, this is not. But depletion of traditional energy resources, loss of biodiversity at an alarming rate, pollution of life supporting system like air and water, these are the key reasons for the increasing importance of environmental studies. Next question. The concept of sustainable development emphasizes meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising future generations. The next question is, the tragedy of commons concept based illustrate the need for tragedy of commons. It based illustrates or explains environmental education and regulation of common pool resources. We should all be educated, not only engineers, not only teachers, everyone should be educated about environment and the problems that we have caused. Next question, which Millennium Development Goal, MDG, full form, Millennium Development Goal, is most directly related to environmental sustainability? And the most directly related to environmental sustainability is ensure environmental sustainability, that is MDG 7. The next one is, the Brundtland Report 1987 is famously associated with defining sustainable development. The Brundtland Report in 1987, you may be asked in any competitive examination. Next question, which of the following is an example of renewable but exhaustible resource? Which is renewable as well as exhaustible, वो खत्म भी हो सकता है और उसको renew भी कर सकते हैं. It is groundwater. ग्राउंड वाटर आपको करना है, कलेक्ट करना है, उसको रिलीज करना है सॉइल में, ऑब्वियसली वो फिर से लेवल बन जाएगा. लेकिन अगर हमने नहीं किया तो वो खत्म भी हो जाएगा. दैट्स व्हाई इट इज रिन्यूएबल एज वेल एज एग्जॉस्टिबल. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज, एनवायरमेंटल स्टडीज एज अ मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी सब्जेक्ट डज नॉट प्राइमरली इंक्लूड, विच डज नॉट इंक्लूड pure mathematics. Of course, pure mathematics is not directly related to environmental studies. Rest of sociology and ethics, geology and hydrology, economics and law, everything is involved in environmental studies, and that's why environmental study is multidisciplinary study subject. Next question is, the IPAT equation, that is impact is equal to population into affluence into technology, is used to understand, it is used to understand human impact on the environment. हम लोगों का क्या असर होता है environment पे, that is called the IPAT equation. And this IPAT means impact. Impact is equal to population, हमारी संख्या, into affluence and technology, हम लोग क्या कर रहे हैं उसके साथ कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजी इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, is used to understand human impact on the environment. अगर हमारे पास टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं, समझो जेसीबी नहीं रहता, तो हम लोग कितनी खुदाई कर पाते? ज़्यादा नहीं, हमारे हाथों से ज़्यादा नहीं कर पाते. लेकिन जेसीबी आ गया, बड़ी बड़ी मशीन्स आ गए, हम लोग यहाँ से वहाँ खुदाई कर सकते हैं. दैट इज़ द प्रॉब्लम. That is the main problem, and that affects the environment more because we have developed such technology and such machinery. The next question is, the primary purpose of environmental impact assessment is to, what is the primary purpose of IPAT? That is predict environmental consequences before decision making. Whatever we decide to do, how it will affect our environment, before implementing our plan, understand this and then only implement it. The next question is, which is a major driver of biodiversity loss as per the environmental studies? Which is a major driver of biodiversity? Why? What is the component? What is that element that is driving the more diverse biodiversity at loss? That is habitat fragmentation due to human activity. We cut the trees, we simply use that soil for sowing and harvesting, and all the insects, all the animals, they get displaced. And that's why the leopards keep coming in our colonies, and that's why we feel that they are coming in our colonies. Actually, we are going to their colonies and destroying their own colonies, and that's why they are simply fighting for their own home or habitat. The next question is, the limits to growth report 1972 highlighted the dangers of the limits to growth. Remember this term. In 1972, this report was published. It highlights the dangers of exponential growth on a finite planet. Finite planet and exponential growth means whatever area of earth is available, which is limited, finite, how much you can grow, how much you can utilize it, there is limitation. To simplify, हम लोगों ने बड़े बड़े शहर बसा दिए, बड़ी बड़ी बिल्डिंगें तैयार कर दी जमीन पे। अभी जमीन तैयार नहीं होगी, वो उतनी जमीन खत्म, बंजर, वहां पे कोई अनाज पैदा नहीं होगा. इट इज ओवर नाउ. And that is what the limits to growth. In 1972, this report was published and it highlighted the dangers of exponential growth and a finite planet. और एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ. समझो एक एरिया है, उस एरिया में आपने 50-50 स्टोरी की बिल्डिंगें तैयार कर दी, सब लोग रहने के लिए आ गए, रास्ते पे पैर रखने के लिए जगह नहीं रहेगा. और बहुत सारे हमारे एरिया है अभी मुंबई के कि वहाँ पे पैर रखने के लिए भी जगह नहीं है. रीज़न इज दिस, आपने 50-50 फ्लोर के टावर बना दिए, वहाँ पे लोग रहने के लिए आ गए, गाड़ी वाड़ी सब लेकर आ गए, इतना पॉपुलेशन बढ़ गया, सभी लोग अगर एक साथ बाहर आए ना तो बाहर सांस लेने के लिए भी जगह नहीं रहेगी. यही प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है. दैट इज द लिमिट्स टू ग्रोथ. The next question is, environmental ethics advocates for. It advocates means what it pioneers. It for moral consideration of non-human entities. Moral consideration of non-human entities. पेड़ है, काट दो, कुछ नहीं फर्क पड़ेगा. उसको दर्द हो रहा है क्या? नहीं. एक पेड़ को काट दिया तो हमारी लाइफ डेंजर में आ गई. हम या तो किसी का खून कर रहे हैं या किसी की आत्महत्या कर, कोई आत्महत्या कर रहा है एक पेड़ को काट कर. वी डोंट फील एनीथिंग अबाउट इट. And that is why environmental ethics advocates for moral consideration of non-human entities. जैसे एक कोई पेड़ है, हमारे घर में कुछ पूजा होती है, हम लोग उसके पत्ते और टहनियाँ तोड़ कर लाते हैं. No, you are not supposed to do that. You are harming it. That's why moral consideration. हम लोग किसी का हाथ तोड़ के लेकर आते का, उंगली तोड़ कर लेकर आते का, हमारे घर में पूजा है इसलिए. No. Then why are you getting that twigs and the leaves of one particular tree cut so that you can perform puja at your home? No, you are not supposed to. The main focus of environmental education as per Tbilisi Declaration 1977. Now Tbilisi Declaration is something different. In 1977 it was done. And what is the main focus of that environmental education as per the Tbilisi Declaration 1977 is to create awareness, skill and value for environmental protection. Ultimately, it comes to environmental protection. Next one, the term Anthropocene. Anthropocene refers to a geographical area dominated by humans. A geological era dominated by humans. जैसे कि हम लोग हमारा दिमाग का इस्तेमाल करके we have developed the technology, machinery and every piece of land we are using and grabbing for industry or for maybe residential purpose. This is our era. But mark my words, everything will be over and there will be era of nature. And the nature balances everything. क्यों बड़े बड़े तूफान आ रहे हैं, क्यों बहुत ज़्यादा बारिश हो रही है, क्यों लोग मर रहे हैं, क्यों पहाड़ टूट के नीचे आ रहे हैं? क्योंकि नेचर ने अभी बोल दिया बस भाई, बस हो गया, मैंने चांस दिया आप लोगों को सुधरने का, लेकिन आप सुधरने का नाम नहीं करते, तो लेट मी टेक द थिंग्स इन माय हैंड और सब बैलेंस, सब खत्म. ये है द टर्म Anthropocene refers to a geographical era dominated by humans. यानी हम डोमिनेट कर रहे हैं अभी, लेकिन नेचर ने डोमिनेट करना शुरू कर दिया है, हम लोग मरने की कगार पर है. The next question is, the core reason for studying environmental issues is that they are transboundary and interconnected. Transboundary and interconnected मतलब क्या? एक बाउंड्री से दूसरी बाउंड्री में उसका असर होगा. हमारी पोल्यूटेड एयर बाजू वाले देश में जाएगी, वहाँ की पोल्यूटेड एयर हमारे देश में आएगी, राइट? और ये इंटरकनेक्टेड है, हमारी एक्शन का रिएक्शन होगा. एंड दैट्स व्हाई द कोर रीजन फॉर स्टडीइंग एनवायरमेंटल इश्यूज दैट they are transboundary and interconnected, and we should understand this. The next question is, which is a key principle of circular economy? Now, what is this circular economy? Minimize waste and maximize resource reuse. Reuse. Plastic, you can reuse 100 times. That's the power of that particular material, but we are not doing that. Single use plastic bags, single use plastic cups, we are simply throwing it, and the soil is getting affected. We are not responsible. We are not taking the things very seriously unless and until it affects us directly. 20 lakh people die per year means what? It's a huge figure. We are controlling our population in that manner. So, which is the key principle of circular economy? The key principle is minimize waste and maximize resource reuse. The next question is, the precautionary principle in environmental management states that lack of full scientific certainty should not postpone cost effective measures. Lack of full scientific certainty should not postpone cost effective measures. So, whatever cost effective and environment effective measures or the products that we are going to launch, we should study them, and out of the study, if they are beneficial, we should not postpone them. We should implement them immediately, even if the people do not agree with that. Plastic ban, 100% ban it. It's a need now. Industry, the pollution, it's a need. We are dying, but still we are not doing it because of some people. They are not ready to take decisions. Okay, the next question is, which global agreement directly addresses climate change? Global agreement, the agreement is UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, that is UNFCCC. UNFCCC, that is UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. This is the global agreement that directly addresses climate change. The next question is, carrying capacity in ecology refers to carrying capacity. It refers to maximum population size an environment can sustain indefinitely. Within one area, how many people can survive for a particular time. That is called carrying capacity in ecology. The next question is, the main objective of conservation of resources is to ensure their sustainable use for present and future. The next question, which is a more major cause of ozone layer depletion? Why ozone layer is getting depleted? That is chlorofluorocarbon, CFCs. You may be asked this question. The next question is, the concept of ecological footprint measures to ecological footprints measures to human demand on nature compared to earth regenerative capacity. How much the earth can regenerate and how much we are consuming or demanding for that resource. That is the problem. For example, potable water. Earth cannot create it. We have to make sure that water is harvested. Otherwise, it is not going to be possible. We will not survive. The next question is, environmental studies help in policy making by providing interdisciplinary insights for balanced decision. Balanced decision means any decision that is not affecting environment in any form in future, in present. Next question. The term environmental refugee refers to the people displaced due to environmental refugees. This is new term and I liked it. It is environmental degradation or climate change. Due to environmental degradation or climate change, the people are shifting from one place to another place, or they are shifted from one place to another place. The most polluted area, people live voluntarily or they are vacated. They are called environmental refugees, and we all are going to be environmental refugees. Take the case of Mumbai people. Every Saturday, Sunday, and if the Monday is a holiday, every Mumbaiker wants to go to Lonavala, Khandala or somewhere in Konkan so that they can breathe some fresh air. That is the reason. We are also environmental refugees. The next question is, which is not a component of human environment interaction? Which is not? It is isolation, of course. The primary cause of global warming is increase in atmosphere concentration of greenhouse gases. All these greenhouse gases, that is chlorofluorocarbon, methane, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, these are all greenhouse gases. Social ecology emphasizes that environmental problems arise from hierarchical social structures and domination. Next question, which of these is a global common? Now, this is global common is another term that you should understand. So, the global common is atmosphere, which is common everywhere, of course. The triple bottom line concept is in sustainability includes triple bottom line in sustainability. This concept includes people, planet, and profit. People, planet, and profit. Mark these words. This is called triple bottom line. The Chipko movement in India highlighted the need for, this is very important as I said, protecting forest and community rights. The next question is, the main reason for water scarcity in many regions is why there is no water, that is poor management and over exploitation. ग्राउंड वाटर का पूरा कंजम्पशन चल रहा है, कोई मैनेज नहीं कर रहा है, बरसात का पानी बह के गटर में जा रहा है या नदी में जा रहा है, समंदर में जा रहा है. दैट इज कॉल्ड पुअर मैनेजमेंट एंड ओवर एक्सप्लॉयटेशन. नेक्स्ट वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टर्म, environmental auditing is a tool for, what is this environmental auditing? It's a tool for assessing compliance and performance of an organization. कोई कंपनी एनवायरनमेंट को कितना हार्म कर रही है और कितना बेनिफिट कर रही है, इसका ऑडिट, दैट इज कॉल्ड एनवायरमेंटल ऑडिटिंग. द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ इंटरजनरेशनल इक्विटी मीन्स, देखो इंटरजनरेशनल इक्विटी, ये शेयर मार्केट में आपने इक्विटी सुना होगा लेकिन यहाँ पे भी है. इंटरजनरेशनल इक्विटी मीन्स fairness in resource use between present and future generation. Present generation uses properly and that resource is available to the next generation also. That is called intergenerational equity. Equally divided. अगली जनरेशन का मुझे पता नहीं है कौन है क्या है, लेकिन मुझे आज जो रिसोर्स है वो इस प्रकार इस्तेमाल करना है कि it is available to the next generation also. Next question, which is a primary air pollutant? सबसे ज़्यादा एयर किस चीज़ के कारण होता है पोल्यूट? दैट इज सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड फ्रॉम इंडस्ट्रीज. और हमें इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन चाहिए, ऑफ कोर्स उसके सिवा होता नहीं, लेकिन हमें कुछ अलग अल्टरनेटिव लेकर आना पड़ेगा. द नीड फॉर एनवायरमेंटल स्टडीज इन इंजीनियरिंग डिसिप्लिन इज, व्हाई इंजीनियर शुड स्टडी एनवायरमेंटल स्टडी? दैट इज डिजाइन इको फ्रेंडली एंड सस्टेनेबल स्ट्रक्चर्स. एज आई सेड, मशीन हो, प्रोजेक्ट हो, इक्विपमेंट हो, टूल हो, जो भी है आपको इस प्रकार डिजाइन करना है कि जिससे हमारा एनवायरमेंट हार्म ना हो. अगला टर्म काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है, बायोमिमिक्री इन डिज़ाइन एंड इनोवेशन. रिफर टू बायोमिमिक्री, इट रिफर्स टू कॉपिंग नेचर्स मॉडल टू सॉल्व ह्यूमन प्रॉब्लम्स. नेचुरली जो नेचर का मॉडल है हमारे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करने का, उसी मॉडल को फॉलो करना या कॉपी करना, दैट इज कॉल्ड बायोमिमिक्री. द मेन थ्रस्ट ऑफ ए नेशनल एनवायरमेंट पॉलिसी 2006 ऑफ इंडिया इज, नेशनल एनवायरमेंट पॉलिसी वाज inked in 2006. And what is the main thrust or the main purpose? That is conservation of critical environmental resources. Critical means now they are on the verge of extinction. वो आप उसको रिप्लेनिश भी कर नहीं सकते, रीग्रो भी नहीं कर सकते, और वो एग्जॉस्ट हो रहे हैं और अभी एग्जॉस्शन के कगार पर है. दे आर कॉल्ड क्रिटिकल एनवायरमेंटल रिसोर्सेज लाइक ग्राउंड वाटर. नेक्स्ट वन, विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग बेस्ट डिस्क्राइब्स इकोमार्क? नाउ देखो इकोमार्क, दिस इज अनदर टर्म. The eco-mark means a certification for environment-friendly product. So whatever product that is launched or manufactured in the world, it has to have the eco-mark. That means it is environmental friendly and it is not affecting during its manufacturing process or after. Next question, fly ash. This is another term. Fly ash is an environmental concern because it is a waste product from thermal power plants causing pollution. Electricity generation होता है कोयला जला के, that is called thermal power, और उससे एक fly ash तैयार होती है which is the product and that causes air pollution, soil pollution. Next, the polluter pays principle, another term. Polluter pays principle implies, what is that suggests? It suggests that the polluting entity bears the cost of pollution control. So if the company or any manufacturing unit is affecting environment, to protect environment, that much of cost that company should bear or pay. That is called polluter pays principle. वैसे तो फिर हमारे ऊपर भी टैक्स लग रहा है. The key objective of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. What is the objective of Wildlife Protection Act 1972 in India is to protect wild animals, birds and plants. और उनको प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए क्या होना, उनका घर प्रोटेक्ट करना है. घर प्रोटेक्ट करना है मतलब जंगल मत तोड़ो, जंगल मत तोड़ो मतलब वहाँ की ज़मीन मत हथियाओ, और हम लोग कि हमारे रहने के लिए वो ले लेते हैं, ग्रैब कर लेते हैं. द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज, विच इज द एग्जाम्पल ऑफ इन सितु कंजर्वेशन? इन सितु कंजर्वेशन वी डिस्कस्ड इन प्रीवियस क्वेश्चंस also. That is national park. National park means all the birds and the animals and that area is protected. No human interference is accepted over there. Next, very important, green GDP accounts for economic growth minus environmental degradation cost. Economic growth minus एनवायरमेंटल डिग्रेडेशन कॉस्ट। हमारा प्रोग्रेस भी हो रहा है, हम लोगों के पास पैसा भी आ रहा है, लेकिन उससे माइनस क्या हो रहा है, एनवायरमेंट का लॉस। और जो आ रहा है ना वो माइनस में नहीं आना चाहिए, प्लस में आना चाहिए, तभी हमारा प्रोग्रेस अच्छा है। द नेक्स्ट टर्म इज द अराल सी डिजास्टर इज एन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ। अराल सी का एक डिजास्टर हुआ है, वो किस चीज का एग्जाम्पल है, लार्ज स्केल इकोलॉजिकल डैमेज ड्यू टू रिवर डाइवर्शन। हम लोगों ने बड़े बड़े डैम बना दिए हैं, पूरी नदी का पानी एक जगह पे हम लोगों ने सोख लिया और उसका जो नेचुरल फ्लो है वो हमने चेंज कर दिया, और उसके कारण बहुत बड़ा डिजास्टर हुआ था, वो है अराल सी। और अराल सी का जो डिजास्टर हुआ वो इसी के कारण हुआ कि हम लोगों ने रिवर को डाइवर्ट कर दिया था। द मेन पर्पज ऑफ क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल वॉज नो, क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल, मॉन्ट्रियल प्रोटोकॉल, ये तुम्हें पता होने जरूरी है। द मेन पर्पज ऑफ क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल, KYOTO, क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल वॉज reduce greenhouse gas emission and it is globally available, कि हम लोग ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस ज़्यादा प्रोड्यूस नहीं करेंगे जिससे ओजोन लेयर खत्म हो। द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज इकोलॉजिकल रेजिलियंस रिफर्स टू एन इकोसिस्टम्स एबिलिटी टू, इकोलॉजिकल रेजिलियंस सस्टेन करना, बचे रहना। इकोलॉजिकल रेजिलियंस रिफर्स टू एन इकोसिस्टम एबिलिटी टू रेजिस्ट चेंज एंड रिकवर फ्रॉम डिस्टर्बेंसेस। यानी कुछ क्लाइमेट में चेंज हो गया तो भी हम लोग मरे ना, दैट इज कॉल्ड इकोलॉजिकल रेजिलियंस। जैसे बहुत बड़ा सुनामी आया लेकिन हमारे किनारे पे हम लोगों ने बहुत अच्छे से बड़े बड़े पेड़ लगा के रखे हैं तो हम लोग बच जाएंगे, दैट इज कॉल्ड इकोलॉजिकल रेजिलियंस। विच फैक्टर इज मोस्ट क्रिटिकल फॉर अचीविंग सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट? आंसर इज इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ एनवायरमेंट एंड डेवलपमेंट इन डिसीजन मेकिंग। डेवलपमेंट तो होनी चाहिए लेकिन नॉट ऑन द कॉस्ट ऑफ एनवायरमेंट, that is called. Next question is environmental studies is a crucial for administrators because it helps. Administrator means हमारे IAS, IPS, हमारे मंत्री, CM, PM, इन लोगों को environmental studies करना बहुत ज़रूरी है because making informed decision on land use and resources, क्योंकि वही लोग पॉलिसी बनाते, वही लोग डिसीजन लेते हैं और उनके डिसीजन अगर नेचर को ख़त्म करने वाले हैं तो हम लोग ख़त्म होने में ज़्यादा देर नहीं लगेगी, और ख़त्म होने में सिर्फ कॉमन मैन नहीं रहेगा, उसमें सब रहेंगे। नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, द लास्ट वन, द स्टेटमेंट वी डू नॉट इनहेरिट द अर्थ फ्रॉम आवर एंसेस्टर्स, वी बोरो इट फ्रॉम आवर चिल्ड्रेन अंडरस्कोर्स द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ, हमें ये जो अर्थ मिला है ये हमारे परदादा दादा ने नहीं दिया है, ये हमारा जो वी बोरो इट फ्रॉम आवर चिल्ड्रेन, मतलब क्या, वो हमारे बच्चों से हमें मिलता है। मतलब क्या, इंटरजनरेशनल इक्विटी, हम भी खाएंगे और हमारी आने वाली पुश्तें भी खाएंगी, हम सिर्फ सब कुछ खत्म नहीं करेंगे, दैट इज कॉल्ड इंटरजनरेशनल इक्विटी। सो दीज वर द क्वेश्चंस विथ आंसर्स। मैंने जो पढ़ा वो आपको दिया है, तुम लोग सुनो, अच्छे से समझो और एग्ज़ाम की तैयारी करो। ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट। कुछ एडिशन है, कुछ करेक्शन है तो आप लोग कमेंट कर सकते हो।